Here's a short, about 20-minute sequence for athletes for recovery and just a full body stretch. You need some floor space, at least a blanket. If you have a yoga mat, grab that too. So you're going to start on hands and knees and just doing our spinal movements. So you can round the back and shake out the head, tailbone down. And then if you drop the belly down, bend the elbows, stretch out all the belly muscles by lifting the sitting bones, heart reaching forward. And then one more of each. Stretch out the back body along the spine, let the neck rest. And then that dropped belly cow, often called cat-cow. And then we're going to take the palms up towards the sky and now put the fingers towards the knees, coming down with the hands in the opposite orientation and opening those inner wrists. So you can do more weight or less weight, just depending how tight you feel. But if you've been doing a lot of weightlifting, gripping with the hands, this is a nice way to open up those nerve pathways in the arms. You could circle around the wrists in this position. And then release, shake them out. And you could even try the other way. Palms facing the floor, fingers towards the knees. Lighter pressure as you come onto the backs of the hands. Don't want to do too much. Opening the outer wrists and forearms. And whenever that's enough, just shake them out. And then back to your hands the regular way and take one foot back, stretching out the leg, heel, especially the outer heel, pressing back. And just a nice, easy way to open the calf and Achilles. If you want more, push through the arms and lift the hips up and back on that side that you're stretching. Kind of a runner's stretch. Or a one-legged downward dog. Downward dog in yoga is like so. You keep the knees bent or straight or a little of both. And let's do the other leg. Stretch it out back, toes curl under. It helps to have a little bit of traction here, whether you have shoes on for traction or on the yoga mat or some kind of exercise mat where it's sticky. You can have that traction. Push through the hands and lift up that side of the hip up and back on the leg you're stretching. And then you could pedal through both legs, through that downward facing dog. Let the head go. Great. And then several times a day, it's a good idea to shake out the hands, since we do so much gripping in our daily lives, even without athletics and weightlifting. And so then we're going to take one arm and we're going to thread it through under the chest to the opposite side. And you bring that shoulder down and over. So you're stretching, in this case, I'm stretching out the right side of my upper and middle back and also the shoulder. Just hold. You could reach up if you want a little bit more. Opening the pec on the other side. Or not. Full breath out is a way to signal the parasympathetic nervous system to heal whatever needs healing in your body. Rest, digest, and heal. That can be signaled with the full exhalation. Try the other arm. Down and over, shoulder down and over to your sweet spot and rest. Full exhalation. Maybe the other arm wants to go up, maybe not. And release. So now we're going to come onto forearms, and just by lifting one leg up, keeping it bent, we're opening the front hip and thigh through the quadriceps and the hip flexors. So just alternate, just holding one leg up for a second, and then release and other side. Just do a few more like this. Great. And then as you come back up, we're going to stretch out the hips, the groin, and the legs with pigeon prep. So if you bring the right knee up towards the right wrist, or left knee towards the left wrist, either way, and you can start just keeping that heel right under the groin and settling in here. The back leg, you try to center the kneecap on the floor, so you're not way off to one side or the other, but centered, kneecap centered in the back on the floor. And then we're opening through the right hip and buttocks, or whichever leg's in front. If you want more, you can come down. You could even rest onto a block or your hands, or anything you have handy. This is a great one because you're stretching out the sciatic area, the buttocks, all the outer hip, and that front leg. But then the back leg, you're also stretching out the hip flexors and the quad a little bit more. You could curl the toes under and lift the knee for a moment as a variation, or you could even draw that foot in towards the buttocks to stretch out the quads even more. So there's different options here, but you could rest here for several minutes even, and just let the hips open in these different directions. Resting and softening is the goal of recovery, right? Resting and softening. Those full exhalations, again, signaling the parasympathetic nervous system that helps us do just that. Rest, soften, digest, and heal. Now, if the knees are sensitive at all this way, you could just come onto the side to open up that quad more by pulling the foot behind you. And then we'll try out that other side. So we're going to do left knee towards the left wrist, or whichever one you didn't do. If I show you a front view, it looks like so. And I am stretching out the back leg, again, centering the kneecap on the floor. Now, if your hips have more flexibility and you want a deeper stretch, then you walk that lower leg and foot forward to more of a right angle with the spine, lower leg to spine. But a lot of us that have tension in the hips, you're just going to keep that heel right under the groin. Stretch that back leg out. You could do the knee up for a moment, back down. Especially if your calf is still not stretched out a lot. If you get any calf cramping, then curl the toes under, do that lift, and then rest. And then you can come down as far as you want and soften. Deep breath. And rest. Of course, you can stay there as long as you want. You can do that knee bending and grabbing the foot in this way. Or, like I said, on the other side, you can just come down onto your side and grab that ankle and foot behind you. With any muscle that is super, super tight, a good principle to keep in mind is to activate and contract the opposite muscle of the one that's super tight. So if you find that your quads are cramping, then you want to activate the back of the thigh, the hamstring, and squeeze the heel towards the buttocks as you do that stretch. Or vice versa, come on down onto your back. If you have a hamstring cramp, then what do you athletes do? Or you see people in the middle of soccer games cramping and someone helping them with this one. And it helps if you squeeze the front of the thigh to relieve a hamstring cramp and back. Opposite muscle group can be activated to relieve the cramping side. Okay? This would be another easy way to open the backs of the legs, both calf and hamstring. You could do bend and straighten, a little bit of both. Toes down, toes up, a little bit of both. And then another way, let's do the other leg like that. Squeeze the front thigh as you open up the back of the leg. Bend, and then straighten, squeeze the front thigh. Toes down. Good. Now that pigeon stretch that we just did, knee to the outer wrist, you could also lay down and do this crossed ankle on the thigh, and then bring the legs in and reach for the hamstrings or the shin. And that's a similar stretch for the buttocks, the sciatic area, outer IT band even. Could do some rocking side to side. Other side. Hold, or that little bit of rocking. Good. And then the classic lower back release is simply knees in towards the chest and resting like so. You could also do some circling of the knees over the hips. If the middle and upper back is tighter, you could actually use the floor for a massage by reaching the arms up and then the hips up and just smooshing out any of those tight spots in the middle and upper back in the floor. You wiggle, just shifting your weight from one side of the back to the other. Floor massage, but the arms and the hips have to be up to get that weight in there. Good. And then knees over to one side, top knee over further, and then reach that arm away from the knees to give you a nice twist. If your hips are tight, you'll feel it more in there, but if you can go over far enough, it'll go into the lower back as well. That full breath. Okay. And then knees over the other way, opening the pecs as you reach that arm away from the knees. Top knee could go further away. Breathe. Excellent. And then we'll try a couple more specific compressions for some tight areas. Now, one thing you can do for tight calves is to smush them out with a rolled yoga mat behind the knees as you sit on your heels. So I'll show you, if you start from standing, it's a little bit more effective. You wouldn't do this if you've recently injured your ankles or your knees, But you put the rolled mat up behind the knees, come down to a squat, shins to the floor, and then you're sitting on your heels with this rolled mat, smushing hamstrings, smushing the calf muscles. And then you could just rock a little bit side to side. And it's a great massage for all the muscles in the backs of the legs. Now, if you haven't stretched out beforehand, like we just did, this could cause some cramping in the feet. You could always curl the toes under and stay here for a moment. In a squat, doesn't matter if the heels go down or not. You're just massaging, again, the calf muscles and the hamstrings. Starting from standing, it stays behind the knee a little bit more. But you could also just from hands and knees, put it back there behind the knees and then sit back. And then it ends up a little bit further back. And then you just get that compression and massage in a slightly different location. And it's nice to do that in 2 or 3 spots to get all the length of the muscles. Calves, hamstrings, get them all smushed out, get the blood flow in there, which is healing, oxygenating, helps with muscle recovery. So this is one of my favorites. After doing this, your legs will want to stretch out again, lengthen for those knee joints. So you could do that again briefly. Awesome. And then the other wonderful thing to do with a rolled yoga mat or a rolled blanket is to start with it under the heart area and lay over it. So it's like your armpits are right over either side. A typical foam roller is going to be too big for this one under the heart. That's great for a lot of other things, but for this one, that where you're just resting, you're letting the shoulder blades, just show you from the side, start here, and then shoulder blades go down over the top side. So it lifts the chest up. Depending on your shoulders, you can either reach out to the sides or up by the ears. And it gets us unhunched. You could stretch out the legs or keep them bent, your choice. And then this can be a series where you rest for several deep breaths in one spot. And then you slightly either scoot back or you can lift your hips up and move the roll down incrementally. And you can try a few different spots along the spine. And if you've been really hunched over, this can sometimes pop a vertebra back into place forward. You might feel that as you rest or initially when you lay down. And you can try out a few places in the middle back, maybe even some playful movement, lifting the hips up or side to side. And then another thing you can do is end up with it under the hips, in which case you can do a little massage on the back of the hips. And this one would be fine to use the bigger foam roller on. A lot of you have probably already done that. With the foam roller, it gets that more specific compression. But even a rolled blanket is going to get some blood flow going in the back of the hips, the SI joints, sacroiliac joints, and the sciatic area. Good. So using that, just a few self-massage techniques, using the floor, like we did for the upper back, or something like a rolled mat or foam roller, of course, is great for recovery too. And then, one more time, hug the knees in, release that lower back, circle through the ankles. Great, and then bring one arm over across the chest and use the other hand to pull it down and over, stretching out the outer shoulder. And then other side. Pull it down and over. Great, and then last thing, for the IT band using the floor, you can stretch out the legs and just prop yourself up, elbow and shoulder under the ear, and just rock that top hip forward and back. And it's giving me a little massage on that IT band, the outer part of the thigh on the floor with compression. Or a little bit more specific, closer to the knee, you could bend the knees and then lift the feet up and down together. So you still are doing top hip forward as you lift the feet, and it's smushing out that IT band there on the side that can get really tight from running. And then of course both sides. You can do the straight legs, top hip forward and back. Your outer leg on the floor. Good. Or bent knees and then feet up and down. And then roll on that IT band. Might be a little bit less torturous, but still effective compared to the foam roller. It can be really painful on the IT bands. One more. Awesome. And then if you have had knee injuries, I just wanted to share one more thing with you. If you take a rolled up blanket and you put the rolled blanket under both knees with sitting with the legs out in front of you, and you're just going to alternate pressing back of the knee down into the blanket, squeezing the front thigh. And you can do some with the heel coming off the floor, pressing back of the knee down into the blanket with the heel. Alternating makes you a little bit more focused on that one leg that's working. And then you could also do some with the heel staying on the floor, pressing back of the knee down into the rolled blanket, or this could be a foam roller or a rolled yoga mat. And these can just support the knee joints. If you've had knee injuries in the past, these are very supportive. Just alternate. You could even do heels up and then pressing into the roll, keeping the heels down. A little of both. This could also be a great stretch for the hamstrings and the calves and back. Excellent. And I'm Nikki Feldman. I have a few other videos on YouTube that are shorter, and some that are a couple that are actually an hour long. If you want to try those, Nikki Feldman. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.